No, Martha, you're going to be in here. I had to put my name in just so I could get Carol to put her name in there. So that's how this works. So I'll be winging this. You know, it starts out in Island Park. We're on the swing late at night. Thank you. Oh, leave while you're ahead, right? No. That'd be cheating because it has to be a true story, right? This is true. Guys, by applause, how many of you have had either your left or right nut ache for no reason? Yeah. Some of them admit it, yeah. I got a clue for you. Chiropractic, it works. and I'm not, there's no tugging. It's it's a simple back adjustment, honest, and it works. So I want to let you know. So I didn't hear that, and I'm probably glad I didn't. So okay, we'll start the real story. Although the real story is much worse than what I've done so far, so I'm in trouble. This is about sledding. And I'm a little older than most of the people here, and kids are a lot safer, a lot more protected now than they ever were when I was a kid. I mean, now we have booster seats in cars. We didn't have any booster seats in cars. We barely had seat belts, and even if you had them, you didn't use them. So, you know, we go back a ways. So things are much more modern, much more safe for kids. And so kids go sledding these days, you know, they've got the hay bales between the rows, and when you go back up the hill, you go between the hay bales so you don't get hit and so forth. And not when I was a kid. When we went sledding, we didn't have the nice warm boots like they have today that you can get for $12 at Kmart. Instead, we had galoshes. And Mike and you guys know about that, the galoshes where you buckle them up, and you just put them right over whatever hard shoe you had, like your Oxfords or whatever. So a few of you might remember that. Some of you don't know what I'm talking about. And sometimes they'd get a rip in them. You couldn't actually use them in the water, but so your feet would freeze. So that's the first thing that wasn't very safe about sledding back then. But I grew up in the Minneapolis area, and Irondale High School was built where our sledding hills were. There were these sand hills before they built the high school where we'd go sledding. So we'd go up there, and it wasn't nice and safe like it is at Island Park, where they have the nice hills with hay bales and everything like that. The first hill was the one we called the trail, and you'd go zipping down this trail, and you had to take a sharp 90-degree turn. Otherwise, you're in the trees. And on the right-hand side was the old barbed wire fence. So that was the first one. And there was a whole series of them that we could go to. And it wasn't maintained by anybody. There's no adults out there, at least none that were responsible. And so one of the next ones was the long one. We'd come up with names for some of these, a fancy name like that, the long one. And of course, that ended in the river. So, another safe hill that we had. And one time when we were there, a guy came along with one of these fancy new machines, a snowmobile, a ski-doo. It was one of the first ones we'd ever seen. And, you know, these days you don't even talk to strangers or let alone get in a vehicle with them. Well, my buddy jumped on and went for a ride. I'm glad he came back. So I don't think your parents would approve of that these days. Then we had other names. There was one called the Bowl. It'd go around in circles. We'd go down that one. And then on the far end, there was one called the Bronco, for good reason. We had a toboggan. You remember those old wooden toboggans with the curve up the front? Well, we were going to go down Bronco, and don't judge me, but I thought it'd be a great idea to stick my head in that curved part. That wasn't the first sledding concussion I've had. The other one occurred at the neighbor's because the neighbor thought it'd be smart to build a garage in the basement where he could bring his car down into the basement rather than up into the garage. But that meant he had to build a slope down into his basement, which, of course, in Minnesota isn't really smart for a car for getting it in and out, but it was really good for sledding. And so one time I was trying to walk up that one time, and somebody else was coming down. I got my legs clipped out from under me, and, of course, I hit my head. And that was my first concussion, sledding. So anyway, things have changed a lot since I was a kid, and it's a lot safer for kids today, but I'm not sure if it's more fun. But don't judge us for that, though.